Hi guys, so welcome back to my kitchen for another Bake with Angie. Today I'm going to be making a hazelnut toffee cake. There are quite a lot of ingredients in this, so I'm going to go through them and I'm just going to break it down into the 3 different sections that you'll need them for. So for the main cake itself, you're going to need 400 grams of plain flour, 250 grams of caster sugar, 100 grams of chopped or ground hazelnuts. I've gone for the chopped just to make them a bit more chunky, but you can get ground if you prefer it a bit, if you prefer less texture in the cake. You're going to need 5 eggs, 350 grams of softened butter. You're going to need a pinch of ground cloves, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a teaspoon of ground coffee. That isn't gingerbread coffee, it's just standard coffee in there actually, so it's just a teaspoon of coffee and a pinch of salt. So that's for your cake itself. Then for the toffee filling inside the cake, because this is what it's supposed to look like when it comes out. So you can see there's like a toffee filling in between the 2 bits of the cake there. So for the toffee filling, what you're going to need is 200 grams of caster sugar, 200 mils of condensed milk, so that's actually a larger can, so I'll measure out the 200 mils of that, sorry. You're going to need 100 grams of butter, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, another pinch of salt, and then you're going to need 300 grams of milk chocolate and 200 grams of dark chocolate. And then finally, for this decoration on the top, this like swirly effect, you're going to need 75 grams each of white chocolate and milk chocolate. And also, as you notice here, there's hazelnuts on the top here, but I'm not using the whole hazelnuts. But you just need, like, this cuts into 10 to 12 pieces, so you just need 10 to 12 whole hazelnuts just to decorate on each slice. But I'm going to leave those out. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to show you how to make a hazelnut toffee cake. Okay, so the equipment you're going to need to make this cake is a 20, oh sorry, you can't see that very clearly, 20 by 30 cake tin. So 20 by 30 centimetres, that's 200 by 300 millimetres. And you're just going to need to grease it down, or you can use a silicone one, which then obviously doesn't need greasing. And we're going to set our oven to 180 degrees C, which is 350 degrees F, or a gas mark 4. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cream together our butter and our sugar. So into your trusty mixing bowl or mixer, whichever you prefer to use, we're going to put in the 350 grams of softened butter, and then we're going to put in your 250 grams of sugar. There we go. I'm just going to lower that in. Well, I will when it goes down. Go. And I'm just going to set that going now, just on a low speed. And now you just want to add your eggs just a little bit at a time, so not too much, otherwise it will curdle. Okay, so once we've done the eggs, the butter and the sugar, what we're going to do is we're going to mix the dry ingredients. So that's, I've got me 400 grams here of me plain flour, And into that you're going to mix your hazelnuts. This is actually a 100-gram packet, so it's the whole packet of the hazelnuts. Very nice. And you're also going to put in with that your coffee powder, your baking powder, your cinnamon, your cloves and your salt. So, get my trusty measuring spoons. There you go. So, we want a teaspoon of the coffee powder. Here. You want a teaspoon of your baking powder. Sorry. So a teaspoon of baking powder. You also want a teaspoon of your cinnamon. Right, so because of the jars, I'm going to have to use 2 half teaspoons here because the full teaspoon won't fit in. So that's 1/2 of cinnamon and 2 halves. 2 half teaspoons of cinnamon. Just need a pinch of the cloves. So not many of these, so just a pinch. There we go. Oh, they smell nice. And then literally just a pinch of sea salt. So just literally a little pinch there. Okay, I'll just put that over with the other stuff. And then you're just going to mix all of this in together. So just to recap, you've got your 400 grams of plain flour, you've got 100 grams of ground or chopped hazelnuts, a teaspoon of dried coffee powder, instant coffee powder, a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a pinch of cloves and a pinch of salt. So now we're going to add the dry mixture into here until it's all combined. So I'm just going to do it a little bit at a time so it doesn't overkill. So I'll just move you closer to the mixer. I do apologise about the noise of the mixer. There's not really anything I can do about that, I'm afraid. So I hope you can hear me okay when I'm talking and I've got the mixer going. Okay, so I'm just going to get my spoon. Set that going. And then we're just, like I say, I'm just going to add the dry mixture in, just a tablespoon at a time, just to mix into the ingredients. should have something that looks like this. And now we're going to transfer it into the baking tin. There we go. Right, and we're just going to put that into the oven now for about 40 minutes. Okay, so my timer's just gone off, so that's been in now for 40 minutes. I'm just going to bring it out. Oh, that's looking rather... Yeah. I'm just going to get a skewer and just test to see if it is cooked in the middle. Yep, that's looking pretty good actually. Yep, that's coming out nice and clean, that skewer, so I'm quite happy that that is cooked regardless of where I actually prod the cake. So leave it in the pan and just let that cake cool now, and after it's cooled down, we're gonna work on the toffee filling. Right, okay, so while the cake is cooling off, we're going to make the toffee filling now. So in a pan, you want to overheat, so heat up your pan. And to the pan, we're going to add our 200 grams of caster sugar, our condensed milk. So I've measured out the 200 mils of condensed milk, and actually when I measured it out, it was virtually the full can, because the can is actually in grams, not mils. So even though it said nearly 400 grams, when you measured it out, it was just over the right amount, so it was virtually the whole of the tin. Then you also want to add in your 100 grams of butter, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay. And finally, again, a pinch of salt. So again, just a pinch. And you want to melt that all together. You need to just heat it constantly. Heat it, constantly stirring until it starts to bubble. Okay, so once it starts to bubble, you need to remove it from the heat, and then gradually you want to mix in your dark and your milk chocolate. And just mix that through until it's all melted in. once it's all mixed in, you're left with this lovely thick chocolate toffee. Just make sure all that chocolate is melted through. Okay, and then we're going to add it to our cake. So here's our cake that's been cooling off. And all we're going to do now is attempt to take it out of the tin and slice it in half horizontally. Okay, so here goes. Oh, that came out of the tin very nicely. Obviously very well greased. So now what we need to do is try and slice the cake. So I've got my trusty cake slice, and I just need to move it down so it's level. And hope this works. Yeah, that's about halfway, so fingers crossed, here we go. Okay, so we've got our 2 pieces of cake that we've sliced in half now. Now we're just going to add on to it this delicious chocolate filling. There we go. Making sure it's all over. Okay, and then we're just going to place the other cake back over on top, as so. Just flatten that down there. Okay, so just press it down lightly to make sure it's nice and firm, and then we're going to put that into the fridge and we're going to chill it for a minimum of 2 hours. Okay, so the cake has now been chilling for about 2.5 hours. So the inside is now set firmly, which is good. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to decorate the top, and that's when your white and the remainder of your milk chocolate come in. So what you need to do is you need to melt these down. Now I'm going to do them in the microwave just for timing, but the best way to do it is over the hob. So you'd get up like a pan of boiling water and rest the dish over the top, so it's not touching the water, but just so the steam from the boiling water can melt the chocolate, and just keep stirring it until it's all melted. But as I said, just because of the time, I'm going to now put these in the microwave and just melt them down. When you are melting them in the microwave, you just need to be very careful that you don't put it in for too long and burn the chocolate. So just like a little bit at a time, give it a stir, and just make sure that it, you know, a few seconds at a time, maybe like 30 seconds. And just make sure that it melts down but doesn't burn. Okay, so I'm going to go and do that now. Right, so I've put the white chocolate on, and now I'm just going to have a go at marbling it. So there we go. And as I said, you can decorate this now with your hazelnuts on the top, on your slices. I'm just going to slice it up into pieces. Well, actually, I'm going to let it go back into the fridge first, set that chocolate, and then I'm going to slice it up into pieces.